Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome, and I hope you'll stick around, subscribe. We'd love to have you part of our community. This is a hard one today for me, you guys. This happened very close by, about a half hour down Highway 40. It's really a lot to wrap my mind around that it happened, how it could happen. I'm sad, I'm frustrated, so angry. It's really hitting me hard, like my heart, it hurts. I had planned this video and I had planned my approach to it, and then yesterday got some new information that caused me to look at things in a different way. I guess honestly it just made me have more questions. I don't victim blame on this channel, and I have some questions, and I don't want it to come across like that, but I have questions, and I think you will too. I'm very frustrated with just the justice system in Oklahoma. I love my state. Y'all know that. Very proud to be from Oklahoma. But these families were let down at so many different levels, and I feel like are continuing to be let down and given the runaround, and it's hard. I need Oklahoma to do better, and the county that this happened in, Okmulgee County, you need to do better. The town is named Henryetta. You need to do better. It's a lot. And you notice I have my trigger warning bunny up, and I'm going to keep it up for the whole video because the whole story is triggering, and I'm going to be showing video clips, and there's a lot. And I narrowed it down, but still ended up with like 12 video clips. And the reason is I feel they're all important pieces to the story as we try to put this together and make sense out of something that it's never going to make sense, but to try to come to some understanding of what in the hell actually happened here. How did we get here? So I'm talking about the 7 bodies that were found in Henryetta, Oklahoma this week on Monday. It made the national news. It's a big story. It's a sad story. And like I said, there's a lot. I do true crime. That's what I do. And last night I was editing the video clips that I want to share and just going over the details and how I wanted to approach this video. And it got to be so overwhelming that I couldn't watch any more true crime last night, whether it be this case or just true crime in general. I was trying to find something stupid to watch to get my mind off of just the whole thing, and it didn't work. And I turned off the TV and thought I'll just go to sleep, and I couldn't. I tossed, I turned, I couldn't get this out of my head. I prayed about it. I did everything I could, and I still don't know what the right way to approach this story is. I really don't. So I'm just going to come on here and talk to you guys because you're, part of this Country Girls Life family, and I think we just need to dive into this as a family. I hope you will comment your thoughts and feelings about the situation. Share the video if you want to. But please give it a thumbs up, because that's not just like for my ego, like, ooh, they like me. No, it helps boost it in the algorithm of YouTube and gets it out there so more people can see what we're talking about here. And what we're talking about here is important. So on Monday, it was just your typical Monday in May here in Oklahoma, and we got an Amber Alert. And where I live, I'm kind of right in between Oak City and Tulsa. I live between two major interstates, Highway 44 and Highway 40. And, we don't get a lot of Amber Alerts, but we do get them because, we're in an area we've got two big cities within an hour or so of us, and then the highways. So I always kind of pay attention to see, is it something close or, whatever. And this one happened to be out of Okmulgee County. And then I saw it was Henryetta. And Henryetta is not a large town. It's bigger than where I live, which is the middle of nowhere. But it is a small-ish town. It's one of those places where everybody kind of knows everybody. If you don't know each other, you know of each other kind of place. My doctor's there. The hospital I go to is there. It's probably most well known as, if you're a football fan, it's the home of Troy Aikman, the former quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. That's how I learned about Henryetta when I was growing up. So anyway, we get this alert, and it was for two missing girls, Ivy, Webster, and Brittany Brewer. One is 14 and Brittany is listed as 16, but I've heard from her family that she actually had just turned 15. But regardless, they were with this Jesse McFadden. He was 39 years old, and they had been staying at his house and did not come home when they were supposed to. So the alert went out and the search began. They were staying at this house. Let me kind of introduce you to the key players here. So this is Holly McFadden and Jesse McFadden. Jesse McFadden is a convicted, registered SO. He was in prison. He had a 20-year sentence, and he got out early. I believe he did 17 years. He got out early because of some programs he participated in, and I guess he earned like 45 days off every month or something. Anyway, he was released early. Now, this is a problem, because while he was in prison serving that sentence, he got in trouble. He had a contraband cell phone and was getting CP, child nasty images, on that phone and sharing them, I assume, with the other prisoners. I've also heard that he may have been sending his own nasty images to the victim as well. So he was facing charges for that when he was released, which in itself I can't wrap my mind around, because he was in there for, trying to come up with the code words for YouTube, essay of a 15-year-old girl at knife point and grand larceny. So what he was doing while he was in there with the contraband cell phone and the CP images, it correlates with the original offense that he was in there for, and they still let this guy out. Now, they let him out. Like, let him out. And it took 6 years for the court date to come up for the new offense. And he was due in court Monday, the day the Amber Alert went out. And obviously he didn't show. So Holly McFadden and Jesse McFadden had been married for a year or so. And she has 3 children. Her children are Tiffany Guess, who was 13, Michael Mayo, who was 15, and Rylee Allen, who was 17. Tiffany had 2 friends over for a sleepover that weekend. And they were Ivy Webster, 14, and Brittany Brewer, who was either 15 or 16. This isn't the first time these girls had slept over with Tiffany at the house. It seems like it was a pretty common thing. All 5 of the kids went to school together in Henryetta. They rode the school bus together every day. Were really good friends. And there were others that were invited that weekend and for whatever reason weren't able to go to the sleepover. And part of the plan, they were supposed to go to the mall in Tulsa, and McFadden's family has a ranch in a town called McAllister, Oklahoma. And they were supposed to go to the ranch in McAllister and go swimming, and they never showed up for that. So those are the players, and they were searching for the 2 girls. Now they had Jesse listed on there because he was seen with the girls. He was the last one to be seen with them. I don't know why Holly and the other 3 were not included, but they weren't. The law enforcement officers went to the property where McFadden lived. It's on the outskirts of Henryetta. And when they got there to, try to see if they were there, they found what they described as some disturbed earth, which, knowing that, we have missing children, it alarmed them, and they got a search warrant for the property. It was not a shallow grave or anything like that. I forget exactly what it was, but it ended up not really amounting to anything. However, when they did the search, they found 7 bodies, and it came out pretty early that they had found the 2 girls and Jesse. So we were all kind of wondering, who are the other 4, And then later it would be confirmed that it was his wife, Holly, and his 3 stepchildren as well. And they were not found in the home. They were found kind of throughout the property. Kind of give you, this is one of the pictures from the news helicopter. This is kind of the area where they were found. Let me see here. Get my notes. You guys know how I am with my notes. They found they found Ivy, Brittany, and Rylee. Rylee is the 17-year-old daughter of Holly. They found those 3 100 to 150 yards apart from each other, about a quarter mile from the house. And then they found Holly, Tiffany, Michael, and Jesse a quarter mile further in to this heavily wooded area. The first 3 were found kind of near a creek. I don't know if you can see in the picture, there's sort of a blue tarp and it's laying by water. I assume that's where the first 3 were found. Sorry guys. Ivy, Brittany, and Rylee that were found together were each shot once in the head. Tiffany and Michael were shot twice in the head. Holly was shot 3 times in the head, and then Jesse shot himself in the head. The gun that was used was a 9mm purchased by Holly in January of 2022. Jesse, being a convicted felon, could not have a gun, but apparently Holly did. The Okmulgee Police Chief Joe Prentice says that he believes the scene was staged and the victims were moved after being killed. And when the parents of the girls went out there, they said that they didn't find like blood in the area where the bodies were found, which kind of sounds like maybe they were killed somewhere else. Later we're gonna look inside the house, and it doesn't really appear that it happened in the house, so I don't have details on that, where it happened, but it's believed that they were moved. However, authorities have told one of the girls' parents that 3 of them tried to run and he hunted them down. Ivy had Life 360 on her phone, and you've heard me talk about Life 360 a lot. We have it on our phones, and it's just a way you can open the app and see where everybody's at in your family. And Ivy's had been turned off. Okay, I think that's most of the significant details. Like I said, Ivy and Brittany were there to spend the night with Tiffany, and this was a regular thing, nothing out of the ordinary. Now, the fact that he was a sex offender and he was living with these children and having children over immediately was like a red flag. Like, how can this happen? Nobody knew. The parents of the girls did not know. You will learn that the dad of Holly's 3 kids did not know. And originally, I had listened to interviews. I've reached out to Holly's family, and they're upset because people are blaming her as being involved. Now, this is where I'm struggling, okay? I do not believe she was involved in the unalivings necessarily. It's hard for me to believe that she didn't know, and that's what some of these video clips I'm going to show you are about. Her family says that she only found out recently, but she was lied to. She was manipulated by Jesse. You will see that he was just an awful person. I don't know if this rose to the level of a DV relationship, but just from what I've heard, I feel like if it wasn't, it was going that way. And I say that only because I've been in one and I can kind of see the progression. He was very controlling. He had pretty much isolated Holly and the kids from her parents, her family, and that will all be in these videos that I'm going to share with you. So let's get into the first clip, and I just want to say that these kids, if you look at them, these are the 3 that lived in the house, right? They all look very happy, typical, normal teenagers, right? They ran track, they were in choir at school, they did cheerleading, they were very active at school. Tiffany was a straight A student. So you're going to ask yourself later in the video, how did they live with what was going on, but seem fine, like they didn't let on at all what was going on. We'll get to it. And the two, Brittany and Ivy, had spent so much time there and never indicated anything off or out of the ordinary about the situation in the house. And that's been hard for me to kind of process in my mind. I have a few ideas of maybe how, but I don't know. It's tough. And all I can say is we see these pictures, right? And they're excelling at school and everything they're doing. Brittany was involved in pageants, and they had planned on going to like youth camp in the summer and things like that. But we say it all the time, what we see on social media is what we want people to see. Like, most people aren't going to put their worst day out there for the world, right? And we never truly know what's going on behind closed doors, and nobody knew for sure what was going on behind that door, behind those windows, behind that gate. Nobody could imagine the horrible things in that home. So, like I said, let's get into this first video clip. This is Brittany's father. We're going to watch it and then we'll talk after.
So many are still in shock with this next horrific story. An investigation is underway in eastern Oklahoma after a tragic discovery, 7 bodies found on a rural property on Monday. Police were there searching for 2 missing teenage girls, 14-year-old Ivy Webster and 16-year-old Brittany Brewer, after they did not return back home on Sunday after they were visiting with a friend. That friend's stepfather, Jesse McFadden, was a convicted rapist, and he was due in court on charges related to allegedly sexting with a minor. Parents of the teen girls said they had no idea, and they want to know how McFadden was allowed to live in a home with children and also have access to other kids, including theirs. Police found the bodies of the missing teens and McFadden dead on his property this week, along with McFadden's wife and her 3 children. The sheriff is not revealing much at this hour, but says investigators have all of the information they need, and they do not believe there is now a threat to that community. Here with me this morning is Nathan Brewer. He is Brittany Brewer's dad. Nathan, there really are no adequate words to express my sympathy and my condolences to you. My heart breaks as a parent, as a person, for what you are going through. Thank you for giving us a moment to remember and honor your daughter this morning.
Thank you.
In your grief, do you have any more clarity about what happened and why?
Not exactly at this point.
We have spoken with Ivy's parents here at News Nation, and they said to us that they're not getting a lot of information from police and investigators. Is that true for you and your family, Nathan?
Exactly. Not really much. Only thing now that they've been saying is, how she died.
And what are they telling you?
That she died from a gunshot wound to the head.
That's hard to process.
Yes, it is.
What else are they doing right now on that property?
As far as I know, they're still doing their final searches and doing their investigation. Sorry.
So tell me about that sleepover and the teens getting together on Friday. What did you know about their plans?
They were supposed to go to Tulsa to the mall. And then while I was at work, Brittany came back and told her stepmom that they were going to go swimming. And she got her swimsuit and a towel and left again. And that was the last time she saw Brittany. And the last time I saw Brittany was on Saturday.
And tell me about that interaction, what the two of you talked about.
We had just gone to do a fundraiser for her youth camp that she was supposed to be going to in this summer. And we just got done doing that. And when I came back to the house and dropped her off, and Jesse and Tiffany and Ivy were here to pick her up.
So did you know Jesse McFadden at all? What was your interaction with him?
Brittany had spent weekends with him for about 2 years. And I had met Jesse twice, and nothing had come alarming to me that he would even be, a registered sex offender or anything. And I learned all that news when I was downloading my video surveillance at my house of Brittany leaving and getting into his vehicle and his license plate number.
So you had no knowledge of his criminal past or the fact that he was due in court on child porn charges even as recently as this week?
Not at all. And that's why I have got all the information to my local legislation, and I'm going to push for the House, for at least for House and Senate, to try to pass a bill, and at least Oklahoma, I want it to go nationwide, but to be either an alert system like a silver alert, amber alert system. When people get out that is registered sex offenders, you get a mass text of their name and what state they are registering in.
Well, and there are measures in place now, as you know, Nathan. They failed you and your family in this situation. You should have known.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those failures. He was let out, which to me was just, it's mind-boggling, with pending charges of CP. I don't know how this man was ever let out in the first place, but this man, since Monday, I have been looking, he does not show up on the Oklahoma sex offender registry. Doesn't show up. Explain that. The parents, when they found out about his past and they brought it up to the police were not even aware they had an SO living there. So, another failure. Something needs to be done, not just here, but everywhere, to try to keep our kids safe. A lot of times you worry about your kids hanging out with the wrong kids, like bad influences, but in reality, we need to be worrying about the parents of the kids that they're hanging out with just as much. How many other SOs are out there that nobody's aware of, and they've got access to these kids whose parents are just completely unaware because the system is failing? I feel like there's not a lot to be done for these families because he took himself out, and so there is, eternal, some sort of divine justice that will be served upon him. But here in our physical world, in their world, there will be no trial, no charges, no sense of justice done. But if I can help them lobby to our legislatures here in Oklahoma, I will definitely be on board with that, because something needs to be done. And trust me, I get over involved in my local cases to the point that I recently had to take a break. It's been so hard not to drive to Henryetta and confront law enforcement about the treatment of these families and what has happened since Monday. And you're going to slowly see more of why I'm so angry. But I don't know if I could accomplish anything because, like I said, there's just really not a lot to be done. But it needs to be out there what is happening, what is not happening is more accurate. What's not been done, how they have botched this whole situation. They need to be spotlighted for that because this is a complete-ish show. It's awful, and I feel so bad for the parents. So bad. Now, I told you I was on one track of how I was going to do this video when this all came out. I knew as far as like who the victims were. All the blame lays on Jesse McFadden. He's the monster that did this. Some blame lies with our judicial system, our, laws. But the 6 people that he decided to take with him, which I'd never understand. If you want to take yourself out of this world, do it. But you don't need to take other innocent people with you, right? And he took 6. And like I said, I don't want to victim blame. So I saw this video. This is Holly's mother and Holly's aunt. And, of course, right away you're like, how? She had to know. And she was letting her kids live there. And she was letting her kids invite kids over into this home with this man. How? Why? Well, this is the explanation that we get from her family. So let's watch this and then we'll talk about it.
We're just happy.
And did Holly know anything about his criminal background,
We're just happy.
Sorry.
And did Holly know anything about his criminal background, his time served, and the charges of criminal rape that he had served that time for?
Yes. The only thing was he had lied to her and told her that the girl was 19 years old, not 16, and that everything was just a misunderstanding. He paid a young lady to portray the victim to sit down and have a talk with my daughter. And she told him, oh, it was just a misunderstanding. You don't get 20 years for a misunderstanding.
He paid a person to impersonate the victim of his crime to tell your daughter a lie, that it was her and that it wasn't a crime?
Yeah, it's exactly what he did.
And he never indicated at any time that he was a registered sex offender at that property where your family was killed.
No, my husband and I didn't find out until middle to late March when my husband was looking up a coworker that he worked with to find out what his charges were, and Jesse McFadden's criminal history popped up that he was a registered sex offender. My husband then contacted our daughter to find out what was going on. Why were they there? Why was he in that house with our grandchildren?
And what date was that?
That was in March, probably about the 20th.
And what answers were you given when you confronted him with the fact that he was a registered sex offender?
our daughter wouldn't let us confront him. She said, "Oh, it was just a misunderstanding. I've talked to the girl." At that time, we didn't know anything about the real victim.
It's an unbelievable story, Jan. I cannot believe that this has happened to you and to your family. Lynn, is there more that you can add? I know that you may be speaking to other people. You are the sister of Holly's father, so you're
Yes.
the kid's aunt. Tell
Yes,
me
ma'am.
what you've been able to glean from any of the people who have at least informed you of this tragedy.
Well, the lady he paid to pretend to be the victim contacted me and was telling me that she was sorry, that she was paid to do so. And she contacted me. So that's how we learned that Holly never spoke to the real victim.
When did that happen?
It was yesterday. I got contacted yesterday.
So the impersonator has now reached out to you, realizing just how dangerous her actions now have turned out to be.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
Have you informed the police about this person?
No, I haven't spoke to the police. I actually contacted the police because I didn't understand why the Amber Alert didn't have my niece and my great nieces and nephew. And I also contacted them in Henryetta to ask if, when we learned of Jesse being on a registered list, if the girls could be there. Were they aware that children were living in that home? So I personally called the sheriff's department. And I was told by the sheriff's department they were not aware of the situation, and at that time did not know that there was a registered sex offender at that address and would contact me again. And I never got contacted back. Never.
It's such a remarkable sequence of events. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we saw a marriage license for just last year. Is that right, Lynn? That Holly just married Jesse last year.
And in fact,
Okay, I'm going to end that one a little bit early. So did you notice, because at first I didn't really catch it, but as you know, when I'm doing these videos, I go over and over and over stuff. The actress contacted the aunt, and Banfield, in her beige, as always, said, "Did you tell the police?" And she said no. Does anyone else find that strange? Because, you know, I'm like, okay, so she didn't know, and then she found out, and she goes to him and she's like, you know, what the F, you know, what is going on here? And he's like, oh, it was just a misunderstanding. And like her mom said, you know, don't get 20 years for a misunderstanding. And hires this person to meet with his wife and say, oh yeah, you know, it was a misunderstanding, blah blah blah. And apparently Holly believed it, and things just went on fine and dandy. But if that happened and that person reached out and said, oh my gosh, I heard what happened, I'm so sorry, I lied, it wasn't really me, whatever, don't you think that's something that the police should know? I don't know. Maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it's not. In the grand scheme of things, I guess it isn't. But that struck me as a little bit odd. And they were talking about the marriage. And apparently he got out in 2020, moved in with Holly in 2021. So like within a year of getting out, he's already moved in with Holly. And then they got married. And the aunt says at their Christmas party there was a wedding cake, and they assumed that they had gotten married on Christmas Eve, but actually they had gotten married in, I want to say it was March, and nobody even knew. So it's a little bit odd. But it kind of just goes to show you, like, the isolation, right? He didn't want anybody to know, I guess. But now they're going to tell you about how he controlled, like, the situation.
Did the kids, Jan, ever say anything about him? Did anyone ever mention anything out of the ordinary? That he behaved in a certain way? That he was uncomfortable? That he was sexual in nature? Or that he was violent in any way? Did they ever say anything?
The kids weren't allowed to see us. Jesse controlled everything. We weren't allowed to see him. They moved the children and my daughter 2.5 hours away, and we weren't allowed to have contact with them other than when they were around Holly and Jesse both. So we didn't understand what was going on, why we weren't allowed to see the kids. My husband and I raised those children. They lived with us more than they did Holly.
So the only contact you had with these kids was just on the telephone?
Not even that.
On the telephone occasionally, and at events at the school. We were allowed to go to track meets. The kids weren't allowed to come stay the night with us. And if they did, Jesse would track their every movement. He would use their cell phones, track them.
And Lynn, what were you just about to add?
Holly was extremely close to my brother. I don't know that I've ever seen a father-daughter bond. And anytime, like, I was probably the most outspoken family member about Jesse being a registered sex offender. And I would say, do this, Jan, say this. And anytime we tried to approach the situation, she was punished. She was shut down. She was constantly on eggshells. She wouldn't be able to talk to her children. So she had to keep a balance. She had to accept things if she wanted to keep an eye on the grandkids and talk to her daughter. It was just an everyday call from Jan, just so stressed. My brother actually relocated to Henryetta to be close when Holly moved. He got an apartment and moved to Henryetta so that he could attend the school events and be there for his grandkids. And he was living in that town and still was not allowed to see the kids.
So it sounded as though Jesse McFadden had an extremely controlling relationship over Holly and all three kids, and became increasingly unwilling to accept the fact that there might be something wrong with this man, and that he might actually be something other than this actress and this liar who had been hired by her husband, that person had told her.
And absolutely. And anytime we questioned anything or asked anything, Jan and Michael were punished. That meant they didn't get to talk to the children or see the children. They were cut out. So we just had to be quiet.
I'm sorry, I got my two big dogs, like, flanking me on either side. So if you see me, Baker is hitting the wall with his tail. I'm sorry. Okay, Baker. Colleen, hold on. Okay, sorry, it's like mass chaos. If my green screen falls, it was Baker. Okay, so he's obviously controlling.
Did you know anything about this perpetrator, this stepfather of Tiffany's, Jesse McFadden? Did you know anything about his history as a registered sex offender and as a rapist?
No, because my daughter would not have spent a second in the house. I would have brought the whole damn police force with me, or I would have dragged him out by the nape of his head.
Holly never mentioned anything at all to you about this.
No, the only thing we ever talked about was at the beginning of their relationship, we had an understanding that no one would be around the kids unless we both agreed upon it, and we did a background check, and we were okay with it. I asked if there was a background check. She said, yes, nothing was there.
So you were lied to about the background, because as we're learning now from the children's grandmother, Jan Mayo, Holly did find out about the criminal background, but unfortunately, this
she was lied
beast,
to herself.
Jesse McFadden hired an actress to lie to her to say that she was the rape victim and that it was all a misunderstanding. Do you think that's why Holly didn't tell you?
I don't know. I know that from the bottom of my heart, I know that if any one of them would have told me anything, I would have been there. Period. I'd have been there. I don't care. Ex-wife not. I'd have been there.
What was your last communication with your daughter, Tiffany?
It was last Thursday. I talked with her a little bit. As I was talking with Holly, the kids were talking to me in the background. All the kids, I don't care. The older two aren't biologically mine, but I was there since Rylee was 1, and Michael James wasn't even born. And we were married 13 years.
Those are all his kids. They all look to him as daddy.
So this is an additional blow. I didn't know that. I didn't know you had a close relationship with the other kids, Rylee and Michael, and you had a chance to speak on the phone.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it wasn't even a few months ago, me and Holly were still talking about possibilities of me going through the legal system and still adopting the older two.
Even though she had married Jesse McFadden?
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts as to why she might have been thinking that you could adopt the children when she was married to someone else?
Because we've been working on it for over 10 years.
They loved him. They didn't look at nobody else as their daddy. This is their daddy right here.
They came to me the last season of During Track and was like, Dad, we know you're not our biological dad, but we don't care. You're our dad.
So Rylee and Michael called you dad as well?
Yes.
I am just so sorry for what you're going through. This is just, it's such a tremendous, I mean, it's an unimaginable loss, that what's happened. At this point, do you hold anyone responsible for having let Jesse McFadden out of prison? It looks like 3 years early, while a crime had been committed in prison, a crime that was similar to the crime he committed that got him into prison.
Yeah, he never should have been let out. The legal system completely failed. And not to mention, where's the sign? Where's the pink light? Where's all the indicators of somebody that's supposed to be a registered sex offender?
Somebody dropped the ball. Joe was kept in the dark. He didn't know anything about this guy's past. We didn't know anything about this guy's past until yesterday when it started popping up. And we're learning more and more about it in real time right now on the interviews you're doing, that people that knew about it, but yet for months and kept it privileged to their little circle and didn't tell Joe anything about it.
I imagine it might have been new information tonight that this sex offender had hired an actress to tell your ex-wife and the mother of your kids that there was no sex offense at all, that she was the pretend victim and that it was all a misunderstanding.
I never knew Holly found out anything, and I never knew about a lie. I never knew about portraying nothing. I never knew about any of it.
When they found out what the public record was, and they knew that he was a sexual offender, and they knew that he had been in jail for all those years for rape, somebody should have told this man so he could protect his daughter and his kids. All three is his kids.
Okay, first of all, I'm sorry. I just kind of threw that on because we were trying to control the chaos and let the big dogs back outside. Things went a little crazy. Got to see little Beans, though. You guys haven't seen Beans in a while. Okay, so we know that Jesse was controlling, obviously. So my thinking was that if the kids knew anything, you know, was he using like a threat? Like, if you say anything, I'm going to hurt your mom kind of thing. Or with Holly, if you say anything, I'm going to hurt the kids kind of thing. I don't know. We'll never know. The only people that know are no longer with us because of the monster. So that was kind of where I was thinking of how nobody knew. But I still feel like the kids, you know, they're out in the community, they're at school, and nobody ever picked up on anything. And then that video with the dad, it was just heartbreaking. And all I could think was back to the aunt and the mom. So they knew, and they couldn't really do anything because when they confronted Holly, then they were punished and not allowed to see the kids or Holly. Why didn't they tell the kid's dad? Because you can tell that man, he would have went and got those kids. He would have done whatever he had to do to get those kids out of there. I don't feel like he would have been intimidated. He would have just wanted to protect the kids. And obviously the kids loved him. And yeah, if it was me and my mom had found that out, she would have dragged me out by my hair and never let me and my kids go back. I mean, hindsight's 20/20, and we never know what we would do. But damn, you know, it just seems like there were opportunities to stop this from happening, you know, starting with him not being released from jail. And then when they found out what this man was, you know, I wish somebody could have got at least the kids out of there. Not that I would wish anything to happen to Holly, obviously not, but you know, I wish somebody could have got those kids somehow out of that situation. And I can't imagine any mother wanting their kids in that situation. I don't care how much she loved him. You've got to think of your kids first. So here is another short video. This is Ivy's parents.
I don't even know we're gonna bury her daughter.
The Webster family, grieving the loss of Ivy Webster, visited the scene just a mile away from their home. Sad, frustrated, and hurt, the family says they just want answers.
I wanted to go on the land and get the answers myself, and I know I can't.
As they reflect on this past weekend, the Websters are sharing new details about the events leading up to the deaths. They say on Saturday, Ivy and her friends Brittany Brewer and Tiffany Guess went to the mall and main event, then had a sleepover, all things they've done before. On Sunday, Ivy's mom got a message from her that she said had a different tone than normal, but not so different that she was alarmed. Later that day,
and I get a call from Jesse a little while, about 5 or so, saying, oh yeah, we're still out here in McAllister. The phone was really cutting out. Not getting good service. I said, okay, keep me updated. And that was the last contact.
That probably...
I believe the girls were already gone at that point.
Now learning about Jesse McFadden's criminal history and status as a registered sex offender, they are calling for change in the justice system.
I ask our congresspeople to get stricter on these pedophiles, to keep them locked up, to hold them in jail, because no other family should go through what we're going through right now.
The Websters tell me they believe McFadden planned this and say it could have been worse, as he supposedly invited more of the teen's friends over. So for parents everywhere now worried about something similar happening to their family, the Websters have a message.
Don't trust anybody. Look up everything you possibly can and everybody around you, where your kids are going to be around.
For those remembering Ivy, these grieving parents say they want people to think about the kind heart she had and how she went out of her way to make others happy. In Henryetta, Amanda Slee, 2 News Oklahoma.
And that's all really good advice, you know, but you look this guy up. I'm so sorry. Knock it off, Odie. If you're new here, this is nothing unusual. My dogs are chaotic, and I have a footless rooster named Steve. Let's see, you can see him right here. He lives in my house in a coop, and he's usually loud too. I'm surprised he's not making noise. Anyway, you can look this guy up, and he's not on the registry. So sometimes even that isn't enough, you know? But I feel like when Holly found out, and maybe it's just morally, ethically, whatever, but I feel like she had an obligation not only to her own children, but children that were coming to her house. Those parents had a right to know who was in that house with their children. You know, I can't. Okay. Big trigger warning here. Big. This video, I received it. Like I said, I've been in touch with the families and I've been getting new info. This is why I couldn't do the video yesterday. I got this information. I've seen it in several different places. This News Nation of all places did a very good story about the video I'm going to show you. The parents were allowed to go into the McFadden home, and what they found is disturbing. That doesn't even cover it. So very, very big trigger warning before I play this video. Huge. I want you to see what was going on in this house where Holly lived with this man and her 3 children, and other children were brought over for a sleepover. Again, this is definitely adult content, trigger warning, viewer discretion, but here we go.
I just want to give you this warning. They're about to take you on a tour through this home, and it is very, very uncomfortable, but you will learn a lot about this Jesse McFadden and what he may have done before killing those kids and his wife. Take a look.
The phone or phone case with like the screen ghost face on the back. Okay. I don't know. There's a phone. No, I don't care about the phone. Yeah, those are Tiffany skates.
Tiffany's bed print is the cow print.
And the cow slippers over here. Spells. Inner witch. Oh my God.
What?
floor over there?
This is a huge. See guys. Get the fuck up right here. What's this?
This is the room. Do you remember when they said that they were making Rylee sleep on their bedroom floor? Where was she sleeping at? There is no room on that floor. And then here, come over here and do another one too.
Give me something to grab.
Take a picture. Take pictures. It's on video.
That's them.
Give me
Hey, that's them.
Okay.
Use this sack. Dump these locks there.
No, those locks?
No, that's evidence too.
So is those
He
drugs.
just wants us. That's
that
it.
hers?
Yep. Okay. Hold on.
Call the sheriff.
Yep.
Don't touch them. Don't move them.
Yep. Let's back out.
That's good.
Okay. I'm
Call the
calling.
chief.
I'm calling.
Smokey.
Are you done looking?
No.
No. I'm not done looking, but that's evidence.
Okay.
He used our daughter's cell phone.
And whatever's behind that.
Yep. Okay.
And they're not concerned about looking anywhere else.
Obviously.
This house needs to be stripped. Oh my God. Okay. Do me a favor.
That's coming. Don't touch anything.
No, that's what I was telling you.
But we touched everything today because we had permission from the sheriff. But we didn't touch the phones. But I was not in the state when this happened, so. Let's go.
So we're getting pictures of all this, honey.
Mm-hmm.
This man was a freaking monster. And his wife was too.
This one's my daughter's. I want to know what else is up here and in here. I think there's more. There's computers.
Some of these tablets.
You know.
Well, did you notice the ring?
The ring?
See that ring? The wedding ring right there.
Oh, I thought you were saying camera. God, that would have been great.
Is this on video?
Yeah, I'm just getting all the stuff up there.
Well, I mean, I didn't say too much of it there.
Yeah?
Yeah, but there's a big old machine, too.
But that's a weapon, so
And it's in here with all this sexual paraphernalia.
And then those were right there. They obviously didn't look too hard.
No.
Look, is that another phone or what is that? Look, hey, that one's still on. That computer, whatever that tablet thing is.
Mm-hmm. It's on.
Not only that.
A syringe
And needles.
and needles.
Hey,
Oh my.
that's cocaine. It's gotta be.
You guys. Sorry. So the hooks and chains and collars and everything, the toys, the drugs, apparently it was just throughout the house. The one you saw in the bedroom, but the other where the guy was pulling on it, that was in the kitchen. The chains and the locks. It doesn't look like it was just recently put there. I don't know. But this really was when I started thinking what the actual was going on. Because if my daughter went to somebody's house to spend the night and she saw something like that, she would be like, you gotta come get me right now. She would definitely say something. Definitely. And we heard the parents say they spent the night over there all the time. She spent weekends over there for like the last 2 years, things like that. So how long was this going on? I don't believe it could have just been out like that. Or the kids would have said something, they wouldn't have wanted to be there. You know, now, like, the drugs, that's bad. It's very bad. The alcohol, you know, like, I was just like, maybe they were trying to be like the cool parent and like, oh, you can drink at my house, you know, kind of thing. But it's all the sex stuff that bothers me, and I can't imagine a kid not saying something, you know. So how long has it been that way? What were those kids, the 3 that lived there, going through on a regular basis? Now these parents have to wonder, you know, were their daughters potentially SA'd? Was it videoed? Why wouldn't they take the electronics? This guy was facing charges of CP on a phone from prison. Did you see how many computers there were? And they found their daughter's cell phones, and above that were 2 more laptops on top of all those other computers. God knows what might be on those computers. And what if he did some horrible acts the night that he killed everybody, and it's out there somewhere being viewed by other sickos like him? And they just left it. The sheriff's office released the house back to the landlord, and the landlord is like, you've got 2 days to come get whatever, and the rest is going in the dumpster. That is not how you handle an investigation. Those electronics definitely should have been taken in. Definitely. And in the next video, I'm going to show you the way that law enforcement reacts to the parents when they're like, come out here and get this stuff, is awful. It is absolutely awful. It's unacceptable to think of what these kids might have gone through. And yeah, like, you don't need this evidence to convict somebody because he took himself out, but you need to know what was on that computer. Who was it going out to? Did he video anything that night? Protect those victims. Those kids might not be alive anymore, but videos of them should not be out there floating around on the web. So let's take a look at this one. It's Banfield and beige again, but mostly this one I want you to watch because it's got Brian Enton's reaction, which I completely agreed with. And towards the end of the video, you're going to see the interaction between the parents and the police, and it is horrible.
First, I have a range of emotions. I'm distressed that the families had to experience that horror and then had to encourage the police to please come back, investigate, and actually take this evidence. But even more so, I think I am concerned about potential other victims that may have been raped or murdered in that home. And it doesn't seem like that is an issue.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. And my first thought was like, these poor parents, with everything they've gone through, losing their daughter, now like touring the crime scene, this untouched crime scene where these hellish activities clearly happen. So, I mean, my heart just goes out to them. I can't imagine what they're going through. But what you mentioned, I mean, there's 2 other things that stand out to me. Number one, you know, could there be other victims? Could there be child pornography victims on those computers? Why wouldn't investigators take the computers and go through them? There could be other victims out there. Why would they just leave the computers there? And then number 2, this sick pedophile, twisted pervert, how do we know he didn't have other men over to this sex den? I mean, clearly they had the shackles. This is a place that was set up and had been there for a while, it appears. How do we know there aren't other men involved in other things that happened there in the past? And why wouldn't police want to go through that entire house from top to bottom, fingerprints, looking for everything. I mean, yes, he might be dead, but could there be other people out there that did awful, awful things in that house?
Or missing women, missing children whose DNA may be on that mattress, maybe everywhere throughout that house, maybe on the restraints or in the needle. There could be a trove of evidence of potential unsolved crimes there. The other thing that was disturbing, I don't know if you noticed it, but on the wall there was like a crossword puzzle of all the family members' names, including Jesse's and Holly's, his wife, and then the children, Rylee, Michael, and Tiffany. And it seemed as though it was a family home, but then it was just mixed in with this horrible sex dungeon business, which also leads you to wonder if Holly did know, because those parents questioned whether Holly knew something about this. And then there was that wedding ring sitting out there in the open right next to the needles.
I mean, how could you not know? I mean, the shackles and the chains that were drilled into the floor next to the mattress in that one room. And then I think I saw chains drilled into the floor in the kitchen even. I mean, it's hard to imagine you wouldn't know what was going on in there unless this was all just set up recently and she hadn't seen it before. But it certainly, based on the video, looks like it's been there for a while.
It certainly does. Brian, don't go anywhere. There is a moment on these tapes that just is soul crushing, because while standing in the middle of all of these horrors where their girls potentially were drugged, raped, and died, just feet from the wall restraints and the drugged syringes, Ivy Webster's dad is so irate that police left all this evidence behind. He just lets the officer on scene have it.
What would this accomplish? I'm a grieving parent that my daughter got raped and murdered, and you're telling me right now that I don't have a right to know what happened?
I mean, what would it accomplish? You might be able to give some people some answers. There could be other victims out there. There could be evidence of that, and like, it feels like they barely even looked in that house, because at the press conference, the chief of police said they had found 2 phones. They found one phone that they thought was Holly's, and they found pieces of another phone. The parents walk in there and they find their kids' phones. They find the computers. The parents shouldn't be the ones finding evidence. That's the police job. And like I said, no, there's not going to be a trial. No, there's no charges to be pressed against him. But what if there were other men there? What if there were other predators there? And you could find evidence of that. What if there is evidence of other, like Banfield Beige said, women, children missing, whatever. Who knows what they could find? And the autopsies, all we've been told is about... Sorry. We've been told about the gunshot wounds. We weren't told if they were essayed. I would say, looking at the house, they probably were, unfortunately. I know toxicology takes a while. I hope they ran tox, because were they drugged? I mean, it was just an awful scene, right? One of the dads described it as like walking into a scene from Criminal Minds. And knowing that your child, that's the last place your child was. Good Lord. So, like I said, I was trying to give Holly the benefit of the doubt that, she was naive, she was in love, she was in denial, whatever, right? But like Brian Inton said, how could you not know? And then this video came out from Jesse's former cellmate. And he says something in this video that I was really like, how did she not know? So we're going to take a listen to that now. And then I want your thoughts on it as well.
His former cellmate was not in for the same filthy charges that Jesse McFadden was in for. Jesse McFadden was in for criminal rape. He raped a 15-year-old at knife point. And while he was in, he had a contraband phone, and he was actually looking up naked pictures of kids. And he was charged with that. And on the day that he committed those murders of his entire family and those other 2 kids, he was supposed to be in court for that second offense. That didn't happen. James Fleming was his cellmate, was not in for any kind of sexual offense, let me be clear. But he certainly knew Jesse McFadden well, knew him personally, ended up sharing a 2-man prison cell with that rapist, mass murderer, for more than a year. Again, clear. James Fleming was not incarcerated for any sex-related or violent crime, but he joins me live now. James, thank you so much for being on. I'm sure all of this comes as an absolute shock. Can you give me some insight as to the person who Jesse McFadden was, the person you knew?
So when I first met Jesse, he just seemed like a normal, clean-cut, another inmate, another convict. But, as we moved in together and we shared a cell, it's about, I would say about 6 months into it, I just realized how weird he was. His conversations would always turn into sexual conversations. He was just a very awkward guy. I caught him, stalking nurses down at the medical facilities. He was just your very, very awkward, weird person.
There was some report that he had actually assaulted someone in the prison as well.
I don't know. I'm not sure about him assaulting anybody in the prison. It might have been before I knew him.
Okay. While you had, you say that you never were at ease, that you slept with one eye open. Tell me about that.
Oh, definitely. So about 6 months into our, living arrangement, he came out and told me that he was in prison for rape. Of course, he justified it. He gave me his side of the story, which I found out later was not true. But, at the same time, he's telling me that, his first rape offense was like statutory, I guess you would call it, like a 18-year-old and a 17-year-old girl and her parents found out or whatever. But, I'm sitting there thinking about it while he's telling me, and I'm just like, man, you don't get 20 years for that, a statutory rape charge. You get 20 years for something very serious and very violent. So he knew that I knew that he was full of crap, And so after that day, just the demeanor in our cell changed. And unfortunately, in Oklahoma, you can't move out of a cell. Once you're in there with somebody, you're stuck. Unless you fight them or you get in trouble, you're stuck with them. So I was stuck. And I definitely was very uneasy. When you're locked in there with somebody at night, you can't get out. Nobody can hear you if you guys are fighting or anything. And so I always had to look over my back. I always had to sleep with one eye open, definitely.
Were you angry that he was let out of his sentence 3 years early, ultimately still facing similar kinds of charges of child pornography?
Well, yeah, of course. We stopped being cellmates in 2015. And even throughout the rest of my incarceration, and then whenever I got out of prison, I kept up with him. I was looking on the Oklahoma State Court Network to see when he was going to have to face, the charges that he got while he was at that other prison. I was, looking up to see where he lived. That's how I found out him and Holly got married. I was looking up to see, if he had faced these charges that he was accused of, that he was guilty of. And I saw their marriage certificate, and it just blew my mind. I don't know why they would let him out of prison, why they didn't just take him straight to county jail and await those charges.
And I know you're upset because you reached out to police to, let them know that this is a registered sex offender, and it was nerve-wracking that you couldn't even see where he was registered. And then ultimately after the killings, you let them know how upset you were. The one thing that I just want to let our viewers know about is that you actually had quite a deep connection to Holly, his wife, who he just murdered, along with her 3 kids and their 2 friends. That you used to be a pen pal of hers when you were incarcerated. She told you that that she loved him. Or she told you that she loved you. And then on February 20th and February 21st, you had this text exchange with her, still as a friend, saying, hey, and she texted back, hi, how are you? And you said, doing great, finally enjoying my life. You know, I see you have a different last name. And then she says, yeah, me and Jesse got married. And you say, how are the kids? And she says, they're great and huge, LOL. So clearly you had a good relationship with her. This must be devastating, this news that not only Holly, but her 3 children are dead.
Yeah, I just feel like this definitely should not have happened. It definitely should have been avoided. After I had that text exchange with her, I contacted the police department where they're married, out of the city where their marriage certificate was listed as. And of course, he wasn't on the sex offender registry, so I contacted them. I say, hey, there's an offender in your area. He's not on the registry. They say, well, the state has a public list. And I went and checked that list, couldn't find him, got back to him, said, hey, you know, this guy's a predator. He has multiple offenses, you know, just trying to warn him, just wanted to say something. You know, I couldn't say much to her because I didn't know if he read her text messages. I didn't want him to see them and hurt her, you know, the exchanges between us. I just wanted to keep it, you know, straight, you know, friendly. But, you know, when I reached out to the law enforcement and they didn't get back with me, I was just like, you know, what the heck, man? This could have been avoided. This could have been avoided.
It's confounding. Jesse is...
Okay. So Holly was a pen pal of Jesse's cellmate. What? And that cellmate was so disturbed by Jesse that he kept track of this guy. He was like trying to find out, like, did he get convicted on these new charges and all this stuff? And then come to find out, he had married Holly. Holly told the cellmate that she was in love with him, but she ended up marrying Jesse, which that's the whole thing. But if she knew the cellmate, how did she not know about the kind of man Jesse was? If they're talking and they're in love and all this, you don't think he ever mentioned how he was so concerned about his cellmate? What? Oh, yeah. Yeah. And now I have a video of you for you of this is the original SA victim of Jesse. And she is in contact with the current victim of the CP from prison. And it's kind of an interesting clip as well. So let's give that one a watch.
Suspect in this horrendous crime is a 39-year-old registered sex offender. I mentioned his name before. It is Jesse McFadden. He had a long criminal history, and in fact, he was due in court just today on child porn charges and soliciting a minor. That he was doing while he was incarcerated. Joining me now is Crystal Strong. Crystal was a child rape victim of McFadden's in 2003, and she helped to put him in jail for 20 years. Crystal, I can't imagine what you're thinking at this time, given what you've been through, and then just hearing from Milena about what she's coping with.
I mean, I'm okay. My trauma's been dealt with. My heart goes out for the families. I begged the DA a long time ago not to ever let him out of prison because I knew that he would do this to someone else. I've never been contacted about when he was getting out. The last time I heard from anybody was when I was 17, and the DA or whoever it was told me that Jesse was really high on meth, that he's sorry, things happen and I need to learn how to forgive. And I hung up on her and I tried to suppress the memories and move on with my life. I don't have any contact with Canadian Shores or any of that area. And the minute I heard about this morning, I had a gut-wrenching feeling that those babies weren't going to come out of there.
Crystal, this happened to you at the same age. I mean, Brittany's mom just told us she had only just turned 15. You were 16 when he attacked you. What was the circumstance?
He was actually, so I grew up, my dad lived around there, around Canadian Shores, and I grew up with his girlfriend and her sister. And he had showed up. I had been at a party that night in McAllister, and I had left my truck in McAllister and got drove home by someone else, some friends. And 3 friends actually, and my stepmom had drove by that night in the middle of my rape, but they kept going because my truck wasn't there. But Jesse had showed up and kept telling me that Holly kicked him out. He needed somewhere to go, things like that. And I was like, look, you really just need to call Holly. Like, you don't need to be here. And then I remember just being shoved through my door, a sock in my mouth, and being tied up to my own bed, and just horrible things happening. I remember the DA telling me that I would never have children. I just suppressed a lot of those memories, and then today brought it all back. And I just, all I wanted was those babies to be brought home.
And that's what we were all hoping for when that alert went out, that they would find those girls.
I've been talking to Caitlin Babb. They've been putting her case on the back burner for a lot of years. The girl with the pornography, with the charges that he was supposed to go to court for, he basically told her this morning, and I have screenshots of him telling her that when this all goes down, this is going to be your fault. And supposedly she gave that to the cops, I guess, and nothing was done.
And I want to be really clear, Crystal, you're talking about Caitlin. She was the subject of those lewd photographs that Jesse McFadden had in prison on a contraband phone. And she has spoken with you and given permission for you to tell her story.
Yes. She said that everybody keeps blowing her off.
Sorry, repeat that?
She said everyone keeps blowing her off and not doing anything. She's been just shoved off to the back burner. And then last night, Jesse had messaged her, I guess from a fake account called Holidays. I have that screenshotted too, telling her, I've done everything I was supposed to do, and you just won't let well enough alone, basically. And now this is going to be on you. Basically, I felt like he was telling her he was going to do something, and she took it to I said, you need to take that to the cops. And she said, I did, and nothing's being done.
And she was prepared to go through with this court hearing today, because this court hearing today for him was about that.
She's been trying to do this. This all happened, I guess, when she was 15 years old. He even told her about me back when all this happened, tried telling her that it all started like I was trying to do it with him, and then all of a sudden I didn't want it anymore. He had that girl so brainwashed.
Disgusting. And can you believe that they told her, oh, he was high and he's sorry and you just need to get over it? What? Like I said, there's failures on so many levels of this story that are so frustrating and get me so angry. And she asked, don't let this guy out. He will do it again. You know, you need to take these victims into account. And then I'm going to show you in the next video the text that he sent to the current victim that he was going to court about. She told the police and they didn't do anything. Which is why I'm telling you this could have been avoided. Like, there were multiple times that things could have been done. And they weren't. And here we are.
records show McFadden was accused of sexting an underage girl while behind bars for rape in 2017. He was charged for soliciting child porn, and because of the incident, he was set to stand trial the same day that the bodies were found. I've been in contact with the victim in that child porn case. She sent me these messages that she says McFadden sent to her Sunday night. You see, he sends a selfie, then a message saying, quote, "I did exactly what I promised to do." He goes on to talk about the job that he got and says, quote, "Made a great life like I promised I would do with you. Now it's all gone." He then says, quote, "I told you I wouldn't go back." And his last message reads, quote, "This is all on you for continuing this."
Talk about victim blaming. So now the last contact she has with this asshole is basically saying those 7 bodies, that's all on you. It's your fault. And that's bullshit. And I hope she knows that. But this is the kind of monster that we're talking about. So how did Holly not know? How did she not know? This is, I believe this is Holly's aunt, talking about the electronics.
Police Chief Joe Prentice said there was no witnesses, so there was no evidence.
Again, I follow the evidence, and I don't have any evidence to indicate what the actual motive was. And I'm going to be honest with you folks. Normal people that understand care, love, compassion wouldn't understand if I could come up with it anyway.
Why didn't you get his technology to make sure he wasn't sending videos or pictures? You left the evidence, Mr. I'm all about the evidence.
Lynn and Holly's godmother, Kathy, are worried not only for this murder case, but that it could be devastating this evidence wasn't seized to help prosecute pedophiles all across the dark web.
So just about an hour ago, Ivy Webster's family showed up in addition to Holly's family. They were upset. There was a lot of confusion. Is this still a crime scene? Are investigators going to come back? So the sheriff's office came out and did confirm they've released this house back to the landlord, and the landlord has given them 2 days, and he's going to take everything to the dumpster. So they're taking those belongings. We've been trying to get an update on the investigation from the OSBI, who referred us to the police chief. The police chief referred us to the district attorney. I called the district attorney.
I cut her off, but she says they didn't call back. And this kind of BS, I've dealt with this in other cases. It's just past the buck. You know, you want to ask the OSBI, who's like supposed to be the lead agency or whatever, and they're like, oh no, you need to talk to this person, and that person's like, no, you need to talk to this person, and that person's like, no, you need to talk to them, and then that person doesn't call you back. Happens all the time. All the time. And I really see a lot of it in these small town cases. And yeah, you can say, oh, there were no witnesses, so there's no evidence. That's bullshit. There is evidence, and you left it behind. And just because there is not going to be a trial or whatever doesn't give you the right to be lazy and not do your job. You need to collect the evidence. You need to give these families, you know, the motive is this guy was an asshole. He was going back to court. He was probably going to lose Holly, the kids, his job, everything. That's his motive. I'm not going back, and I'm taking everybody with me. That's not what the families care about. They want to know what happened to my kid. Not so much why. I mean, yeah, you want to know why, but they know they're not going to really know why. But what happened, and is it out there on the web somewhere? Are there other victims? Are there people out there that maybe can be prosecuted for some small part in this? Do your job. And this is the last video clip I have for you. I promise. I told you this was going to be a long one. I hope you understand why it is. I hope you understand why all of this is important information. But here we go with the last clip.
I know he planned it. I found that out yesterday. He planned the whole thing. He was angry at the world. and he didn't care who he hurt. I found out there was other girls that he wanted to have come too.
Law enforcement also allegedly shared with Webster that at least 3 of the victims tried to escape, but McFadden hunted them down and killed them. The family says McFadden also called them Sunday night, telling them all is fine with their daughter.
I'm pretty sure they were gone by that point.
Sick. He called them and said, they're pretty sure that he texted too, but he called them and was like, oh, everything's fine with your daughter. We're still in McAllister. We're running late, yada, yada, yada. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound like Letitia Stout there, but yeah. But yeah, this guy, sick monster, never should have been out. This is the ultimate senseless crime that could have been stopped at different levels in the system. It was just a complete and total breakdown. It's tragic. Never should have happened. Hopefully will never happen again. But sadly, I know at some point I'm going to be reporting on another SO that was out, that shouldn't be out, that's doing something awful because he was let out. Sorry, you can probably hear Beans and Bandit in the background. But like I said, I hope you understand why this was so long, why I felt like all of those clips were really important. And just leave me your thoughts, your feelings. Like I said, I don't want to blame anybody, but I'm having a hard time with Holly. Like I said, you know, she had a duty to her own children, but she also had a duty to any kids that were coming over to her home. And those parents deserve to know about what kind of person Jesse was. And I don't want to victim blame, but damn. But let me know what you think. Please, like I said, give this a thumbs up so it'll get boosted in the algorithm and more people can see this video and just how messed up our system is and what a failure it can be and how much tragedy can come from these failures. Why wasn't he in the registry? I don't know. Was it a clerical error? I don't know. But that very well could have led to this tragedy. Something needs to be done. Oklahoma, you need to do better. So, like I said, please give it a thumbs up. That would mean a lot to me. Subscribe if you aren't already. And just keep your kids safe, y'all. Do everything you can. And even then, it might not be enough, but just try and hug them a little tighter and give them an extra kiss and let them know that they are your world and that you would do anything for them. And let them know if something's not right, they can come and they can tell you. Let them know that, you know, they're safe. So that's all I got for you. Thank you for being here with me for so long. And as always, I will see you all in the next one. Bye.